to an early morning edition, a very rare early morning edition because I stay out really, really, really late into the early morning hours as I do a little side Ubering from time to time. So being on here early is not usually one of the things that I do, but I figured I'd mix things up like I always do. You never know when I'm going to just pop in here. I just want to come in here and discuss some of the college football topics with all of you out there. Y'all just go ahead and drop it in the comment section. If you want to talk about anything else, if you want to come on the show, I can also send you a link because this is the home of the Common Joe and the Common Sally and the No, even more so than all those media talking heads. Now, getting right to it, SEC has decided to finally cave in and go to a 9-game schedule. I think at the behest and needling of other conferences have been crying and wetting their little diapers because they say we don't play enough conference games and it's not fair to us, even though the SEC has been scheduling tough non-conference games that sort of pose as conference games. Now, if you don't think enough of yourself to consider yourself a major college football program, then that's your fault and your low self-esteem. Because, for example, my team, Alabama, scheduled Wisconsin and Florida State. And when they scheduled these two teams, they were really good. You have to schedule these games 4 or 5 years out. So I don't think Alabama intentionally scheduled Florida State after a 2-10 season because that's just not the case. These games were scheduled out 5 or 6 years in advance. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up the article on the SEC and the fact that it is going to be going to a 9-game schedule, as you can see right here. Y'all can see that. There it is. Under the new format, the SEC will continue with a single standings non-divisional structure, which is great. I hate that SEC West, SEC East thing. I'm glad that thing is a thing of the past. Each school will play 3 annual opponents focused on maintaining many traditional rivalries. Okay. Each team's remaining 6 games will rotate among the remaining conference schools, and each team will face every other SEC program at least once every 2 years, and every opponent home and away in 4 years. The SEC teams are required to schedule at least one additional high-quality non-conference game from the Atlantic Coast, Big Ten or Big 12 conferences, or Notre Dame each season. The SEC will continue to evaluate its policies to ensure the continued scheduling of high-quality non-conference opponents, which means instead of playing 2, what you're going to get here now is most likely the SEC will probably only schedule 1, since we're having to add another big-time school to our schedule, that being a fellow conference brethren. That'll provide y'all with less shots at the SEC and non-conference games during the regular season, which a lot of y'all will probably be happy about. I saw my boy Kuz talking about the other day that a lot of West Virginia people, for example, they've been wanting to get out of the Alabama game for quite some time, and now they'll probably get their wish, as Alabama will probably have to choose between West Virginia and Florida State or West Virginia and Ohio State. So a lot of these teams pretend like they want to play Alabama, and they really don't. That's my point on that. But that's what's going to happen. And I don't want to hear no more bitching and whining and complaining from all you SEC haters out there about the SEC playing a tougher conference, or not a tougher conference, but a tougher schedule. Because now that we're adding another conference member to our schedule, that'll be one less team that y'all have to worry about beating, in my opinion, as far as the SEC goes. That's what y'all want. That's what the people outside the SEC want. They want the SEC to play each other more so that the SEC cannibalizes and takes each other out and bangs each other up before the playoffs, just like Georgia and Texas did when they played in the SEC title game and Georgia lost Carson Beck. So Don't cry and wet your diaper when the SEC continues to schedule those late November cupcake games. It's another thing that I want to try to expound on. I've said this many times, and I want to continue to say it. Why are y'all all up in arms about the SEC playing the cupcake in November? When y'all play cupcakes in September, you're like, well, you're not supposed to play them in November because you're supposed to play them early. Why? Why is that a rule with y'all? Why is that a convenient rule for y'all? I don't understand that. As a matter of fact, it sounds sort of dumb on your part. The ones of you outside the SEC that don't schedule cupcakes in November makes you look, quite honestly, a little spastic and just pretty much dumb. Because it would be smart to schedule your cupcake late if your team's banged up, throughout the year. The later you get in the year, the more injuries you have. To have a cupcake game to sort of rest your starters before you play your toughest conference rival is what usually happens at the end of the year with most SEC schools. Alabama plays Auburn, Mississippi and Mississippi State, Georgia Tech, Florida State. They all chief rivals, Clemson and South Carolina. So my question to y'all is, why don't y'all schedule y'all's game late? Why don't you schedule it early? That makes completely no sense. Or here's a novel idea. Just schedule one in September and one in November. That way you'll have one early on to break your players in. That's what a lot of people do it for. And then you'll have one late. Because now if the SEC's picking up another conference game, you're only going to get one crack at us during the non-conference. And so we'll move on from that now, and we'll move on to the see what we got here. Okay, go ahead and remove that from the thing there. Let's put the grill back up. All right, so that's the SEC's 9-game conference schedule and the impact it's going to have on college football. So now let's talk about the playoff expansion. We're wanting to go to 28 teams? Really? The Big Ten, the holier-than-thou conference out there that preaches AAU status to get in our conference because we're academically inclined, even though they fix grades for their players just like everybody else, wants to go to 28 teams. That means there's probably going to be more games to be played by the student athlete and less time for them to concentrate on their academics. Mr. Hypocritical Big Ten fan and Big Ten alumnus and Big Ten boosters and Big Ten administration, Tony Petitti baby. So, yeah, let's check it out real quick. Let's bring that up for y'all. See what y'all got to say about that. All right. That's not the one. That's not the one. All right. I'll get it right for y'all this time. If y'all got any questions or you want to be on the show, just drop in the comments section over there and I will be more than happy to answer any questions that you want to talk about, no matter what it is. All right. Here it is. Y'all see that? All right. Here it is. The Big Ten is proposing a 28-team model. The Big Ten and the SEC would each get 7 automatic bids. I'm an SEC guy, but there's not 7 teams from our conference deserve to be in the playoffs. I'm sorry. The ACC and the Big 12 will get 5. There's not 5 teams in the ACC or the Big 12. And Big Ten, you ain't deserving of 7 either, by the way, since I accidentally omitted you in that last statement. But There's not 5 teams in the ACC or the Big 12 that deserve to be in, because nothing says, it's like it says here with the USA Today article, nothing says battling for postseason quite like an 8-win Louisville or Baylor reaching the dance, an 8-4 school, or more to the point, a 5-loss Michigan with an automatic pass. Formats that increase discretion in the role of the CFP selection committee is what Petiti Baby said last month on Big Ten Media Days. We will have a difficult time getting support from Big Ten. Nobody cares about your support, Petiti. Let me tell you something, man. I know y'all doing this on purpose, bro. Y'all doing it deliberate because y'all yearn and want the days of the long gone by Rose Bowl coalition that you had with the Pac-12 to come back. Now that you cannibalized the Pac-12, now you just want to have a national championship unto yourself. Since your conference is almost at 20 teams, you want to tell your fans, look, we tried to come to an agreement with the SEC and the Big 12 and the ACC, and they just wouldn't come around. They wouldn't do things the way we wanted. So we're going to take our ball and go home, and we're going to have our own national champion between our 18 to 20 teams, because they'll eventually go to 20. They're going to. And that's what they're aiming to do. They fancy themselves as they want to be academically respected like the Ivy League, which is in their geographical footprint. They've always been emasculated academically by the Ivy League. And same time, they want to be great athletically as well. So they're trying to sort of balance the two so they can be great in athletics and academics at the same time without having to have any risk of losing to these other conferences in a national championship playoff format. And people say, well, wait a minute now, they won the last 2 national titles. Yeah, but if you go back and look at history, over a period of 120 years, the last time the Big Ten won back-to-back legitimate, recognized national titles back-to-back, like Ohio State and Michigan had the last 2 years, last time that happened was probably in the 1920s. Maybe not even then. Maybe never, because I haven't went back and looked. But I know for certain that the Big Ten and the Big Ten hasn't had back-to-back national champions, 2 different teams like that, in quite some time, at least 70, 80 years. So it's just an anomaly, and they know it, and they know that, man. They're going to eventually the SEC and the ACC and the Big 12 are going to rise back up like they always do, and they're going to hand them their ass in the 2 big money-making sports, that being college football and men's basketball. The SEC's rising up in men's basketball. Back in the past, the SEC was sort of a doormat for the other conferences in basketball. Not anymore. We're not just a Kentucky league, as evidenced by the fact that Alabama, a football school, went to the Final Four and went to back-to-back Elite Eights. So that's what they're afraid of, and that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to pretend like they're trying to work something out with us when they're really not. They're really not. Carlos Fulton says, you sound ridiculous talking out of the side of your ass. I didn't know that was possible, Carlos. You know how to talk out of the side of your ass? Because you sound like you're an authority on that, Carlos, my man, or my woman, or my transgender, or whatever the hell you are. If you don't like what I got to say, you can come be on the show, man. You can debate me face to face right now, because this show is about the common Joe and the common Sally in the know, even more so than all the media talking heads. Nate Robinson's in the house. He says 28 is way too many. 28 is way too many. And like I said, they're doing it deliberate. They're doing it deliberate. Yeah, the only one that sounds ridiculous is you, Carlos, because you're just talking out of the side of your ass, because you're the one that said something about someone talking out the side of their ass. I don't think anybody here knows anything about talking out the side of their ass. You're the first person that brought it up, so obviously you know something about it. So if you want me to send you a link and you want to come on here and Show us how you talk out of the side of your ass. Maybe that's the side of your mouth, because, from your picture, you do look a little ridiculous yourself. Maybe your mouth is like an asshole. Nothing but shit comes out of it. Right? But anyway, yeah, so 28 teams is way too many. They're doing it deliberate because they want to try to get 7 or 8 teams from their conference in the playoffs. Unearned. They want automatics. They don't want to earn it. That's the Big Ten way. They've never wanted to earn it. They just want to pretend like they have this academic standard to get in, this AAU, which is a farce, because Nebraska no longer has their AAU status. The Big Ten would lose so much money. The Big Ten's one suggesting this, jackass. The Big Ten is the one that's putting this out there. They want 28 teams. That's way too many, man. Way too many. And the Big Ten claims to be worried about the student athletes and them having too many games being played. If you go to 28 teams, you're going to have way too many games being played. We're talking about having a couple of buys and working it down to 24 and then to 12, 8, 4, and so on and so forth. And then you got a conference championship game, which is stupid at this point. You shouldn't even have a conference championship game if you got this many games in the playoffs, right? Way too many games for those athletes, supposed to be student athletes. It's too many games for them to be playing, man. The Big Ten's a big old pile of hypocrisy. Yeah, they do. And they wouldn't lose money. They wouldn't lose money at all, man. If they had their own little league, that's what they used to do back in the day, man. That's why we didn't have a playoff or a semblance of a playoff until around 1998 when we started having the BCS thing. And then they didn't come on board with that until 7 or 8 years later, around 2003 or 4. They come along with the BCS because they weren't getting recognized as national champions anymore. So they decided to come around to it. They had their little Rose Bowl tie-in. They had 2 conferences, the Pac-12 and the Big Ten. They started doing that like in the late 1940s because Alabama and some other southern teams were going to the Rose Bowl and whooping their ass. They were whooping the Pac-12's ass every time they went out there. Alabama was like 6-1 in Rose Bowls. So they took their little ball and went home, and they held college football hostage for the last 70 years with the Rose Bowl tie-in. And then all the other conferences had to follow suit, and they had to tie themselves up with bowls. So we never had a real national champion until here recently, because the Big Ten's always drug their damn feet. They want to go back to the days of them just playing each other and playing the Pac-12. They can't play the Pac-12 anymore because they cannibalized it. But they can have their own little 20-team league. Maybe even they'll expand to 24 at some point. And then they can declare themselves national champions. And then they won't have to worry about competing with the other conferences. That's what I'm saying, Carlton. Carlos. My bad, I called you Carlton. Yeah, I know. And I'm not happy about that, Carlos. I'm not happy about it at all. I'm not happy about the SEC acquiescing to the Big Ten's quims and whimpers. Y'all need to play 9 conference games like we do. No, we don't. Why, so we can beat up on each other? Y'all don't have to worry about taking us out? That's all that is. That's all that is, Carlos. They want us to beat up on each other. That's it. Because 9 conference games in the SEC is a lot different than 9 conference games in any other conference. Let's be honest about it. If you would take Vanderbilt from the SEC and put them over in the Big Ten, they'd probably be 4th or 5th in that conference at least, instead of being a perennial bottom dweller. Yes, Vanderbilt done decent last year, but we all know, historically speaking, that Vanderbilt's usually at the bottom, just like Mississippi State and Kentucky. If you took a Kentucky team that's usually middle of the road here recently, or South Carolina. South Carolina's a good example. You put South Carolina over in the Big Ten, South Carolina's probably going to be contending for the Big Ten title every year. So, yeah. Anybody else got anything to say about that before we move on to the next topic? I'm going to move on to the Notre Dame's got a new logo. Notre Dame's trying to stay up and catch up with the wokeism of Cracker Barrel. Everybody's, trying to. It's like they just don't learn. The worm has turned on all that woke shit. People are not down with transgenderism, which is a made-up word. I've said 1,000 times. There's no such thing as transgender. You're either female or a male, man. You're born. If you're born a male and you have female tendencies, or you feel sort of feminine, if you feel a little feminine, then and you're born with a penis, more than likely you're gay. You're a gay guy, and you need to own that. Instead of trying to come in and compete in women's sports and take away women's rights and what women have worked so hard to get to. Women are on a even platform in some sports, like tennis, for example, and even golf somewhat. And now you got Caitlin Clark in the WNBA sort of getting a little bit of pub. But you have men that are basically gay men that are just ashamed that they're gay, I guess. To me, it sounds like they're bigots against their own sexuality. It's real simple. If you don't want to call yourself a man, you don't have to. It's a free country. You can say you're a dog if you want to. I'm not declaring myself as a dog, so I can run around butt ass naked and go out in the park and take a shit in front of everybody. Since anybody can be anything they want to be. But here's the bottom line. And it ain't got nothing to do with you being transgender or the made-up word. If you want to compete in sports, if you're born with a penis, you compete in sports where people were born with a penis. If you were born with a vagina, you compete in sports where you were born with a vagina. Or you can start a little offshot sports league, a transgender made-up word sports league, and see how that goes for you. So you stereotyping now? And that's a form of racism in a way. You against the Southern people, the Southern race. You discriminating. Maybe racism ain't the right word, but are you discriminating and stereotyping people in a certain geographical region, Carlton? Damn, I called you Carlton again. I guess you look so much like that spastic on damn Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, man. I just keep calling you Carlton. You Southern boys down there, y'all down with the woke culture. No, that's you, brother. That's you. You the one out there probably playing transgender volleyball in the beaches of Santa Barbara. Man, it's got a jack in the box. It needs to be in a jack in the box sport. That's all I'm saying. Men shouldn't be beating up on women. Well, that's a crime in most states, all states. Beating up on women, ain't it? Carlton is hilarious. Carlton can dance too. You ever seen Carlton dance? You ever seen that video where Carlton's dancing? Carlton can tear up the floor, man. So maybe that's too much of a compliment for you. What do you think? Yeah, exactly, Nate. That's what I just showed you, man. I showed you the Carlton dance, man. So we talk about everything in here. We go from talking about the Big Ten and the SEC haters wanting to go to a playoff expansion of 28 teams, making the SEC play 9 games because they don't want to have to play the SEC. They want the SEC to beat up on each other. So now we're talking about Carlton having some pretty damn good dance moves. You're right about that. Oh, Carlton can dance. Now let's look at Notre Dame's new logo real quick. See what y'all think about that. Since Notre Dame's trying to stay up with. See if this is it. No, that's not it. There it is. Y'all see that? I don't think it's a bad looking logo. I don't see why people are so up in arms. It's just they've taken him from just being a leprechaun to being a leprechaun with the, looks like he's running with the football and maybe fixing to strike that Heisman pose. I don't really see anything wrong with this logo. So I don't see why people are so up in arms about the new Notre Dame logo. But there are some people that are already making fun of Notre Dame for messing with their logo like Cracker Barrel, accusing them of wokeism. And I'll show you a funny picture of that somebody put up of what they think the new Notre Dame logo should be. Let me find it real quick. You should like this, Carlton. Carlos, Fulton. Let's see what we got here. There we go. There you go. There you go, Carlton, Carlos. Check it out. That's something right there, ain't it? No leprechaun, old snaggly tooth ass, got a Bud Light, man. Don't hang out in a bubbly tub with a Jack in the Box that pretending to be a woman. Right? That's some cool shit right there, right? Get a little Bud Light in his hand. Carlton Fulton says, you calling him Carlton on. I'm just messing with you, bro. Everybody's allowed their own opinion. It's just I like to sometimes grill people a little bit and poke fun. So don't take it to heart, man. I'm just messing with you. Glad we have Trump in office. He's shutting down all that nonsense. That's right. And I tell people here all the time, it ain't that I'm a MAGA. It ain't that I'm a Republican. It's just that the Democrats right now make it so easy not to vote for them. I used to be a registered Democrat. No more. I'm an independent because they let the liberal spastics hijack that party. And they just do generally stupid shit. Stuff that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. A person with common sense would know better. Why would you cater to 1 or 2% of your population? People that probably have some mental illness issues going on. If they think they look down between their legs and they got this sausage hanging down there and they think they're a woman. How can you say that? You're not a woman. You're not a straight male either. Because if you're having those kind of thoughts, like I said, most likely you're a gay man. So just own your homosexuality. Quit being ashamed and come out of the closet, man. Just don't, it just makes you look like a bigot. Like I said before, it makes you look like a bigot against your own sexuality because all you are is a gay man that's not good enough to compete in your biological sport. You're a coward that wants to beat up on women. That's all you are if you call yourself a transgender man or woman or whatever it's considered. If you're a dude and you consider yourself a woman and call yourself that made-up word transgender, what you're really saying is, I'm a coward that can't compete in my own biologically fair sport. That's all that is. Notre Dame mascot kind of looks like you with that hat on. My hat looks a lot cooler than that, man. I have you know, my hat looks a lot cooler than that. Nate Robinson says, I've known a few feminine talking guys, but most were poon hounds. Poon hounds, huh? Most guys that talk real feminine, most of them were gay. Not trying to stereotype, just saying most of them are gay. And there's nothing wrong with that. If they want to be gay, they can be gay. But don't try to convince us that you're a woman. Ain't no straight man going to date you. Nobody's going to cheer for you when you get out there and your nut sacks hanging out of your bikini when you're trying to compete against Riley Gaines and stealing her trophies. I know who I'm talking about. Old teabagging bikini boy. Can't remember his damn name now. But yeah, he had his shit taken away from him, by the way. Y'all done got me off on a tangent, man. I can't even talk about football or nothing now. Not all. I think they were just raised around women young. You could be right about that, but I was raised around mostly women too, but I don't talk like that. Yeah, just saying. I guess to each their own. But let's see what we got here also on the college football agenda. I'm going to pull up some stuff from CBS and give y'all some tidbits and get y'all's thoughts on this. All right, here's the headlines. On here on the side over here, if you look at the side, it says Sankey explains the SEC's move to a 9-game schedule. They got 9 games starting in 2026. All right, so here's one. Here's some hypocrisy to the epic degree. Urban Meyer suggests the NFL should suspend Jim Harbaugh. You believe that? Urban Meyer is suggesting punishment for another coach. This is the same guy that let them run wild down there in Gainesville before the shit started falling apart after Tim Tebow left. And Aaron Hernandez went up there and murdered that guy and then killed himself. And then he goes to Ohio State and allows one of his assistants to basically get away with domestic abuse. And some people are like, well, it was proven that she's sort of crazy. It don't matter if she's crazy or not. Dude was still beating on her. Doesn't matter how crazy she was. She's probably crazy because he was beating on her. Urban Meyer's a scumbag moron. Exactly. And then he goes down to Jacksonville and completely shows his ass, goes up and kicks a field goal kicker. He did that deliberate. He got fired on purpose at Jacksonville. He just wanted to get down there and get that money. You know, and when he quit that one time at Florida, he's talking about how he done it for his family. Hey, his daughter wrote him a letter and blah, 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 little house on the prairie bullshit. I'm like, man, come on now. Are you kidding me? Dude's talking about, oh, I got to watch my daughter play volleyball in Turkey or Kazakhstan or wherever the hell she is playing volleyball at. And then within a year and a half or 2 years later, he's back in college football. Well, damn, Urban, you sure spent a lot of time with your family, man. A whole 1.5, 2 years, boy. Urban Meyer, I don't get it, man. They have him on Fox all the time asking for his expert advice. I'm like, he's the expert at covering up immoral bullshit and turpitude. That's all he's an expert at. He's a piece of crap. And for people to continue to want this guy's opinion on matters and to put him out there, how you gonna criticize Jim Harbaugh when you doing the shit you've been doing? Been caught up on video, bumping and grinding on a damn 20-year-old girl or whatever she was. She might have been 17 for all I know. But yeah. Urban Meyer, we call him Urban Liar. We call him Urban Liar around here. Pat Fitzgerald has settled his termination lawsuit with Northwestern. I forgot all about Pat Fitzgerald. And I forgot about this. It says here, refreshed Dan Mullen is ready to roll at UNLV after a stint in broadcasting. The former Florida coach is enjoying the process more this time around. UNLV, huh? Las Vegas, huh? Have you ever seen Dan Mullen's wife when the players come back from road games, like getting off the plane? A lot of people may have forgotten this or don't know about it. I used to call her the Dan Mullen's bunny humping wife because she acted like a horny ass bunny every time the players got off the plane. She was kissing them directly on the lips. I can understand maybe hugging somebody or maybe even a peck on the cheek. Not even that, though. You ain't supposed to be kissing on another man. These are young men, not kids. People try to call them kids all the time. It aggravates the hell out of me. These ain't kids. These are grown ass men. If you can vote for the president of the United States, and serve in a war and kill people, you're a grown man. So don't be trying to hide behind that I'm a kid shit. But back to what I was saying. Yeah, old Dan Mullen's bunny humping wife. And she's like Sandusky on them boys, man. She kissed them right in the mouth, man. Ain't no telling what else she was doing behind the scenes. That's on the real. See what y'all got to say about that. Sounds like the Mullins are swinging, says Nate Robinson. Yeah, exactly. Exactly what I thought. Ain't no telling, man. Dan probably pimping his wife out for recruits. No wonder he couldn't recruit. Shit. Oh, here we go. Let's get back on this. All right. Says Andrew Luck hopes to bring Stanford back to glory as the GM. Notre Dame names C.J. Carr as their starting quarterback for BYU. Not BYU. Starting quarterback for week 1. BYU made the right call going with a freshman quarterback. So, that's the headlines right now. Top 25 teams set to finish unranked. Yada, yada, yada. We'll look at that in just a second. But there's something I want to bring up. Is the odds to win the national championship. Can y'all guess who's number 1? Before I pull it up. Who do y'all think's odds-on favorite to win the national championship? Top 2. Before I bring it up, who do you think top 2 is? If I can find it. Here it is. There it is. Y'all see that? Best national championship odds. Right now, Ohio State at 14%, followed by Penn State, Alabama, Clemson, Georgia, Texas, Notre Dame, and Oregon are the top 8 schools, the Elite 8, that have a chance to win the national championship, according to Las Vegas odds. So Ohio State and Penn State are 1 and 2. Alabama's number 3. Clemson's number 4, and Georgia's number 5 in the top 5. A lot of people would have probably thought that Texas and Ohio State, or Ohio Stank, as I like to call them, you would think Ohio Stank and the Texas Long Turds would be 1 and 2, but they're not. It's Ohio State and Penn State, the Sandusky Shower Hour at number 2. Meanwhile, the most glorious program of all time, you're 18-time, whether you want to admit it or not, 18-time national champions, Alabama at number 3. And there are a lot of people saying Clemson's coming back to the glory, so as much as people were sick of that Alabama-Clemson stuff that used to go on, you might see it again. You might see an Alabama-Clemson matchup once again for the national championship. According to this. So is she hot? Not really. She's average, I guess. I can look her up for you. All right, here we go. Dan Mullen's bunny humping wife. All right. See if I can get this pulled up for you. Damn stupid ass shit. It won't let me show the picture. I don't know. Let me see if y'all can see this real quick. I'm gonna pull it up for you so you can see what Dan Mullen's bunny humping wife looks like. We got a call already coming in. People don't know how to leave me the hell alone when I'm doing something. All right. Let me pull that up for y'all. Y'all see that? There she is right there. You see her? See how close she is to that dude? Do you see that? That's some bullshit right there, Nate. That's some bullshit. Yeah, y'all don't own Alabama. This shit's tied, Carlos. The series overall is tied. I think it's 3-3, something like that. I couldn't pull it up bigger, but you can see how epically close she is. This dude. It looks like their noses are intertwined. I mean, it looks like they could swap boogers and spit at the same time. Yeah. I don't know why I can't get it bigger. Well, maybe you see it now. Stupid shit. Let's see. Maybe y'all can see it now. About that. You see that? That's a little bit closer. That's some scary P. Diddy shit right there, boy. I didn't make Saban retire. What you talking about? Saban retired because he was tired of this NIL horse shit, basically. But now I think they're trying to start implementing some rules. As a matter of fact, Nick Saban has been going to Capitol Hill a few times to speak on the behalf of college football to try to get this shit rectified. I don't mind these players getting paid, Carlos. I really don't. But for them to just be able to up and leave in the middle of the year, like that one guy did at USC, Bear Alexander, just left after 6 months. That shit needs to stop. It gives them an unrealistic view of how things are going to be in the NFL. When you go to the NFL, more times than not, you have to sign at least a 3-year contract. Now, there are some extenuating circumstances where players only stay a year at a team. But for the most part, if you sign like a 3-year deal, you got to stay for 3 years. They sign that letter of intent, it don't mean nothing. It don't mean shit, man. They can just leave the next year. So what you do is I don't get excited for high school recruiting anymore. Let me take Dan Mullen's bunny humping wife off the screen real quick. All right. So, yeah, they don't have to sign any contracts. They have no responsibility for anything that they've said, or if they promised a university they were going to stay a number of years. But that's starting to change a little bit, I think. I think they are actually behind the scenes making these players sign little contracts where they got to stay at least a full year and through the bowl season. But what they need to do is make them sign at least 2-year deals, in my opinion. I'm not saying you got to stay the whole 3 or 4 years. If you're not doing what you need to do here to get yourself in the NFL and further your career, I can understand leaving after a couple of years. But you need to at least give it 2 years, man, because you never know when someone might get injured or something too. A case in point with Alabama, our starting, who everybody thought was going to be our starting running back, Jam Miller, got injured in the preseason here, and he's out for about 3 or 4 weeks, maybe 5 or 6 weeks with a broken collarbone. And our former running back transferred to you guys, Michigan. If he had stayed, He'd be the starter right now. But we do have a crowded backfield. So in them cases, I can't understand players transfer and try to better themselves. But you still need to sign some kind of contract, man. If you're going to make adult money, then you need to have adult responsibility. He's the starter on a better team now, huh? We'll see about that. I think you know and I know, we both know that last year's bowl game, nobody cared about that shit, man. Nobody cared about that. If you're not in the playoffs now with 12 teams, nobody cares about them bowl games anymore. Let's be honest. It'd be like playing in the NIT in basketball. You can play in it. If you lose in it, nobody remembers it. If you win it, nobody remembers it. It's the same thing. Win or lose, nobody remembers that shit. Unless you're a program that lost 5 games. Then you might remember it, which would be Michigan last year. I like Michigan. I mean, you can come in here and try to smack talk all you want, but I actually like Michigan. Got some of the best helmets in college football. I'd say probably the best helmets and the best fights on. I like Michigan. Really do. No, my team really didn't care. I'm just being honest with you. I'm not trying to take away from your little ReliQuest bowl victory. But 10 years down the road, nobody's going to remember that shit. 10 years down the road, they will remember your national title, though. Right? You got to agree with that. Yeah, well, Alabama had some players leave, too. You just didn't know about them. We all had players leave, man. That's no excuse. It's just like Florida State getting blowed out by Georgia 63-3. Everybody's like, well, Florida State didn't care and their starters, blah, 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 left. Well, Georgia had starters leave too. It's just that nobody cares about those bowl games anymore, man. Nobody. They say they do the line. With 12 spots now, if you don't get in the playoff, yeah, you've had a pretty mediocre season by Michigan and Alabama standards. At least I hope Michigan still has that blue blood mindset. I would hope y'all not satisfied with a ReliQuest bowl win. Y'all did beat us in the playoffs a couple of years ago, but I remember a few years back when we played y'all in that opening football classic, we pretty much beat y'all like a drum, beat y'all like a homecoming opponent. So it comes and goes. If Alabama and Michigan were to set up a series like we had with Penn State back in the day, we had a 10-year series with Penn State. I think Alabama won 7 of those. Penn State won 3 or 4. Might have been 6-4 or 7-3. I can't remember. But if Alabama and Michigan were to play each other each and every year for 10 years straight, I would gander to say that Alabama would probably come out on top overall. We'd probably be like Penn State. We'd probably beat y'all 6 or 7 times out of 10. Not saying that to be cocky, just saying. But I will give Michigan credit on one thing that nobody's probably ever done before, Carlos. And that is they beat Ohio State, the defending national champions, and Alabama back-to-back. I don't think anybody in the history of college football has ever beat those specific 2 teams back-to-back because nobody's ever scheduled those 2 teams back-to-back. So, yeah, that is a big accomplishment. You beat the defending national champions and you beat a team that's won 6 national champions in the last 15 years. 6. So, and y'all won 1 as well. So, I just think y'all got the wrong coach, bro. I ain't going to lie to you. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not trying to troll and I'm not trying to aggravate you. I don't think Sharon Moore long haul is the right guy. He got up for Ohio State and Alabama, but he's losing to teams he ain't supposed to be losing to. And I don't think Sharon Moore is going to work out long haul. I think Michigan can do a lot better than Sharon Moore. Michigan deserves better than Sharon Moore, in my opinion. Hopefully, y'all don't have Lloyd Carr still lurking around in the background, screwing people over like he did Rich Rodriguez. Lloyd Carr is he reminds me of a bitter old man like Phil Fulmer, who was in the backdrop screwing Tennessee over left and right after he was forced out. Just like Lloyd Carr was forced out after he lost at a game to Appalachian State, I think cost Lloyd Carr his job. Now, they turned around the season and ended up going, 9-3 or something, and y'all beat Florida in a bowl game. This year will show me a lot, but he's on a short leash in my book, says Carlos Fulton of Sharon Moore. I agree, man. I just don't think Sharon Moore's got it, man. That way he acted when he was the interim coach for Jim Harbaugh, when he started breaking down crying and shit, to me that was a little overkill. It's a little over the top, man. I don't mind you getting a little emotional and showing some passion for your team. But that, to me, was just like, it looked like an acting job. It looked like he was playing for that job. And it got him the job. So he played it up right, man. It's one of them Academy Award performances, I guess, for Sharon Moore. They should give him some kind of little trophy where that little woman's holding that damn, that golden globe up or whatever she's holding up. They don't look like a globe. It looks like a ball of yarn with holes in it. You say you hated Lolly Carr. You call him Lolly, huh? I'm gonna start calling him Lollipop, because he's a sucker. Oh, Lollipop Carr. Yeah, Lloyd Carr. I wasn't a big fan of Lloyd Carr. I think Rich Rodriguez probably would have done a lot better job at Michigan had he not been undermined by some influential Michigan boosters and Lloyd Carr, specifically Lloyd Carr. I think Rich Rodriguez would have done a better job for Michigan. I think that Rich Rodriguez is going to do a good job in his return to West Virginia. So, yeah. I think Jim Harbaugh has got, he got 10-year show calls on now. If he doesn't work out in the NFL, I suspect Jim Harbaugh probably won't coach anywhere anymore. People don't realize this, but Jim Harbaugh was actually successful in the NFL. Try to act like, oh man, he come to college because he sucked in the NFL. No, that's not true. If I'm not mistaken, he took San Francisco to a Super Bowl with that idiot called Colin Kaepernick. Jim Harbaugh is a little weird, a little quirky. But he sure knows how to push buttons. That was all. I was hoping that one day him and Lane Kiffin would match up in a game. Can you imagine the week of a game with Jim Harbaugh coaching one team and Lane Kiffin coaching the other one? Can you imagine the smack talk that would take place between Lane Kiffin and Jim Harbaugh? Lolly Carr was so bitter that he wouldn't let his grandson go to Michigan, who's now the starting quarterback at Notre Dame. Oh, snap. I was just talking about that, too. That's crazy as hell, man. Michigan put Lloyd Carr on the map. Without Michigan, nobody knows or even cares who the hell Lloyd Carr is. When y'all hired Lloyd Carr, I can't remember. Was he an assistant at Michigan? Did he move into the role? Had he been a head coach previously somewhere else, or was he just an assistant on the staff of the previous staff? Who was the coach before Lloyd Carr? Brady Hoke was after Lloyd Carr, right? Or was he before? Who was before Lloyd Carr? Oh, he was an assistant to Bo Schembechler. Okay. Never could spell Schembechler, man. I wouldn't even attempt it. Now that right there, maybe that is a Southern thing, but man, I cannot spell Schembechler to save my life. Just like Howard Schnellenberger. All them crazy ass, long ass Germanic names, Polak names, Finnish, Swedish names, whatever. That should be messing with me. So did Lloyd Carr succeed not succeed. I guess that's the right term. Did he follow Bo Schembechler? Smells of bourbon. Who smells of bourbon? Turd Ferguson. Turd Ferguson with the best damn screen name of all time up in here today. In the early morning days. Early morning version of the Outlaw of College Football. If y'all don't mind, smash that like button for me. It'll push out the algorithm. Get more people in here in the party. Also, like, share, comment, and subscribe to this channel. Especially you, Carlos. You know, we got a couple of Michigan guys on my actual podcast, and when I do the live streams at night, there's a guy named 1989M that's a regular. He's a Michigan guy, big supporter of the Michigan Wolverines. So make sure you subscribe, Carlos, because I do talk about Michigan a lot. I do have a disdain and dislike for Ohio Stank, just like you do. So you probably like that. Howard smells of bourbon, says Turd Ferguson. I think Turd's saying that because Howard was a head coach at Oklahoma for all of 1 year. Now, not trying to defend Howard here. Well, maybe I am. But Howard Schnellenberger, you know, he was a pupil of Bear Bryant. So he probably learned that drinking shit from Bear Bryant. Alabama fans get mad at me when I talk about that. But Bear Bryant he partook in a lot of the alcohol stuff too. But Howard actually saved Miami football. Miami, the Hurricanes, were going to shut down their program in the late 70s. They were going to shut it down completely. Howard Schnellenberger comes along and wins a national championship, puts them on the map. And since then, they went on to win, I think, 5 national titles. It's hard to break through that glass ceiling for new names. You don't have a lot of new names in college football to win national titles. Usually a team that's already won it, like Ohio State, Michigan, Alabama, LSU, Georgia. I hate to even talk about Georgia, the hedge pissers. They got off light in them 2 years. We happened to actually not be in the way of Georgia when they won that second one. But, yeah, at that time there weren't many teams that had broken through. Just regular names like that. Oklahoma, Nebraska as well. Those teams, Notre Dame, USC, those were the teams that will usually win national titles. It's usually teams that have won it before. But Miami broke through, and now they're considered one of those. Florida State's another one that broke through, as well as Florida. Tennessee had won one before, and they won it in 98. So, yeah. The next team to break through that's never won one before, who do y'all think that'll be? A team that's never won a national championship in college football. Who do you think that program will be? They have to be a first-time ever winner. Because, you know, teams like LSU, Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan, Texas, even Oklahoma, all those teams have won national titles before. Some of them ain't won it in a while. Like Notre Dame, who ain't won one since 1988. Oregon, ding, 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 ding. That's the one I was going to say, Carlos, or as we call you now, Carlton. You need to do us a dance, man. Just get one of those Carlton dances, man. If you want to be on the show sometime, just let me know. Yeah, Oregon is the team that's been knocking on the door. They lost to Auburn when they probably shouldn't have. And they got blowed out by Ohio State. So, yeah. They got blowed out by them again, didn't they? Who beat Oregon this past year in the playoffs? Was it Ohio State? I think it was. Beat them pretty bad, right? But yeah, I think Oregon will probably be that next new team to break through if they ever do. With Nike money, they should have probably already broke through, to be honest with you, Carlos. But a lot of people say Oregon. So, yeah, that's the most popular thought process when it comes to new champions. But if not Oregon, who could it be? Some people are like, well, BYU's been on the cusp here lately, but BYU would be a first timer. BYU, for all you history buffs out there, BYU is probably the only true G5 school that won a national championship when they were a G5 school. BYU is no longer a G5 school because they're in the Big 12, but they were the first and only G5 school to win a national championship back in 1984. It wasn't a part of a major conference. People are like, wait a minute, Notre Dame. Notre Dame's not a G5 school. Ole Miss ever won Natty? Yeah, they won one back in the early 1960s, brother. I think they won one when Vaught, is his name Vaught Hemingway? Can't remember. This is a good answer. Texas Tech is dropping money right now. Texas Tech has been dropping a lot of money. So I think if it wasn't going to be Oregon, then it might be Texas Tech. I never knew Texas Tech had that kind of money. But from what I understand, they've been dropping some big bucks here lately of the Texas and Texas A&M variety, Michigan variety, Alabama, Ohio State variety. At one time, I would have said Wisconsin, but Wisconsin sort of done slid off a little bit. They seem to be on the cusp there a few times. Back when they had Barry Alvarez and then Brett Bielema, who's now at Illinois. So, yeah, Texas Tech and Oregon, those are two pretty good choices by y'all. I could see them breaking through. Maybe Kansas State. Maybe. Kansas State was on the cusp one time, and they lost in the last game. West Virginia, by the way, my boy Kuz's team, has the highest winning percentage of all time of any major college football program that has not won a national championship in college football. West Virginia has the 15th highest winning percentage. It's pretty high. And they've been close a few times to win a national title or competing for one. They played Notre Dame in '88 and lost that game because their starting quarterback, Major Harris, got knocked out in the first quarter. So I'd like to see West Virginia win one just because I got a lot of friends from West Virginia, and they've been ever so close, and they're some good old country boys, you know? Wisconsin and Iowa are stuck in the 90s with how they run their programs. That's true. I never have understood the adoration and the ballyhoo that comes with Kirk Ferentz. Kirk Ferentz, to me, is the most overrated coach of all time. Iowa, if you get a head coaching job at Iowa, you pretty much set. Unless you start going 3-9 or 4-8 every year, you're pretty much going to keep your job at Iowa because Kirk Ferentz wins 7 or 8 games a year and gets extensions. Now, that defensive coordinator they got, what's his name? Phil something. Phil Parker. Phil Parker is the real deal. Without Phil Parker, Kirk Ferentz might have lost his job by now. Nate Robinson says, oh my God, Lubbock is a great place to go. Let's just say the Boom Boom Room, open till 5 a.m. Well, now, is that like the Champagne Room at the Platinum Plus? Don't they throw tortilla shells on the field or something? It's a weird-ass tradition, don't you think? Turd Ferguson says, WVU is a great program. I agree, he says. I would just, going back to Iowa, I just can't, I don't understand it, man. It's just like Hayden Fry, the coach that was before him, man. He had like 200-something wins, but he had like 150 losses. He's like, damn, man. Seriously? Boomer Boom beats Platinum, says Nate Robinson. Sound like, man, you need to hook up and do the circuit, man. There's some of these strip clubs. Where are you from, Nate? What city are you from? I'm from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, by the way. I'm here in the heart of the University of Alabama. I ain't, but matter of fact, I can walk out the side road out here next to my apartment complex and look down the street, and I can see Bryant-Denny Stadium from here. So if y'all ever in T-Town and you want someone to show you around, just hit me up. Claremore, Oklahoma, in the house. Never heard of Claremore, but it sounds like a good old country town. What y'all got in Claremore? Y'all got y'all Walmart and Dollar General there? Just playing, man. Just playing. I'm not making fun of Claremore. Nothing wrong with small towns, man. We got a lot of them here in Alabama. Jeff Davis is in the house. Jeff Davis says he's from Warner, Oklahoma. We got some boomers in here and some Go Blues. And who else is in here? CAW watching. Y'all tell me where you're from. If y'all don't mind, smash the like button. Also, share it out with your friends. And if you hadn't subscribed to the channel already, hit the subscribe button. It's free, man. I know when you see the word subscribe, you think, man, I'm going to have to subscribe to something. That's going to cost money. No, it's free. It's absolutely free. Absolutely free. Just makes the party larger. Gets this party crunk. Now, there is something you can do for a little something extra. You can join the Outlaw Posse. It's a paid membership. It's a little join button over by the subscribe button. It's $2.99 a month, 75 cents a week. That's just half a bottle of water for the Outlaw. That's my motto. You get a badge and get deputized. And be a random Four Horsemen shout out. Random Four Horsemen shout out on the actual podcast, as well as possibly the comment of the day and other stuff and other perks with your Outlaw of College Football membership. We call it the Outlaw Posse. Center fans, can't wait till week 2, my brother, says Carlos Fulton. Yeah, it's going to be a hell of a game. 2 big blue blood logos, them great epic blue blood helmets. Golly, man, I can't wait. I feel all right in here, man. Love me some college football, man. Love it. That nice epic 3-stripe Wolverine helmet versus the big OU Crimson helmet. Love it. Love it, man. I love it. Love college football. I don't mean you got off to a rough start there, Carlos Carlton. But like I said, I do like Michigan. If I had to pick between Michigan and Ohio State, you know who I'm picking. Great helmets. Best fight song in college football. Alabama's got a pretty good one. So does Oklahoma. But I must say that Michigan's is the most recognized. Notre Dame's ain't too bad either. Don't tell them I said this, but Auburn's got a pretty cool fight song too. Even though they're claiming fake national championships, they're going around retro claiming national championships now. Surprised they didn't try to take Ohio. I'm surprised they didn't try to take. Well, they did try. Just surprised they didn't try to take Michigan's national title. Damn. Well, all right, brothers and sisters of college football. Just wanted to jump in here this early morning and shout at y'all and talk some college football and try to get my fix. Still got another week or two to go. We got a week to go. We got games this weekend. We got one decent game in Kansas State and Iowa State. I'm going to do a watch party for that one at 11 o'clock in the morning if y'all want to join me 11 o'clock in the morning on Saturday for that. But it's almost here. We're almost there. We're almost there. But with that, I'm out of here. Like, share, comment, and subscribe to this channel. And as always, KMCA to all the other teams. And if you don't know what KMCA means and you're new in here, it means kiss my country ass. Class is now dismissed.